The snow fell hard, thick like white ash from the sky. It covered everything, the trees, the rocks, and even the little footprints of the girl who had wandered too far. Her name was Tiri. She was small, with pale violet skin, big, glowing blue eyes and soft hair like silver thread. Only 6 years old, but smart, fast, and always curious. Too curious. She didn't mean to go far. She just saw a strange glowing bug fluttering between the ice trees. It looked like a flying flower, shining pink and blue. Tiri giggled and chased it, stepping over frozen roots, past icicles that hung like knives. She laughed as the bug danced between the cold leaves, but soon the laughter stopped. The trees looked the same now. The wind howled louder, and the bug was gone. Tiri turned around. She walked back the way she came, more so she thought. But the snow was falling fast, covering her tracks. Everything was white, gray, and still. The glowing trees gave no warmth, only light. She called out, "Papa!" No answer, only the wind's cry, far away. Captain Rourke dropped his supplies when he heard the faint cry echo across the snow. His chest tightened. He knew that voice. His little girl, his everything was lost. He cursed himself for not watching her more closely. "I told her to stay near the shelter," he muttered, grabbing his gear. But she was always chasing things, always dreaming. Rourke, a strong-built man with rough hands and deep scars on his face, had been a soldier once. Now he was just a father trying to raise a child on an alien world. He pulled his thermal coat tight and stepped into the jungle of frost. Every second mattered. He knew how fast the cold could kill. Back in the forest, Tiri tried to stay brave. Her little hands rubbed together, shaking. Her nose was red, her eyes wet. She whispered, "Papa will come. He always comes." She looked up at the white sky, where snowflakes drifted like feathers. Then she saw something: footprints. But they were not hers. Not her father's either. They were wide, deep, and clawed. Her breath caught in her throat. Suddenly, she heard a crack behind her, like ice snapping under pressure. Tiri turned quickly, but nothing was there, only strange shadows between the glowing trees. She ran. Rourke followed the scanner on his wrist. Searching for signs of life, he saw a faint reading, small, warm, moving slowly. That had to be her. His boots crunched through the snow, breath steaming in the air. He passed sharp ice blades, ducked under low-hanging frozen vines. He whispered to himself, "Hold on, kid. I'm coming." Then something flashed on the scanner, another signal, large, heavy, and moving closer to Tiri's location. His heart stopped for a second. He had heard of the frost beasts, huge creatures that blended into the snow, silent hunters with glowing eyes, and now one was hunting his daughter. Tiri slid down a small hill, landing hard in front of a frozen cave. It looked like a mouth, dark and wide, teeth made of ice spikes. She hesitated, but the wind was too strong now. Biting her skin with a deep breath, she crawled inside, hugging herself for warmth. The cold stone pressed against her back, but at least it blocked the wind. She didn't notice the glowing eyes watching her from deeper inside. Not yet. She sat there, knees to her chest, and whispered, "Papa, please come." Her voice shook with fear and cold. Tears rolled down her cheeks and turned to tiny ice crystals. A soft growl echoed from the shadows. Low and deep, Tiri froze, eyes wide. Something was breathing, just beyond the edge of the light. Outside, Rourke sprinted. He saw her small footprints leading to the cave, and beside them, the beast's tracks. He raised his rifle and activated the heat sensor. One large heat source, one small one, both inside. He didn't wait. He charged toward the cave, ignoring the pain in his legs. "Hold on, baby girl," he growled. "I'm almost there." He reached the mouth of the cave and saw her curled up, shaking her back to the shadows. Then he saw it. two glowing yellow eyes moving behind her, slow and steady. The frost beast had found her. The cold wind screamed through the trees, but Rourke couldn't hear it anymore. All he could hear was his own heartbeat pounding like thunder in his ears. He knelt beside the cave entrance, breath short, rifle in hand, inside his little girl, sitting in the dark. Unaware of the monster behind her, the frost beast moved silently, each step closer. Claws clicking on the ice, its long body blended into the shadows like smoke in fog. Its eyes glowed yellow like two dying suns, and it was hungry. Rourke knew he had seconds, not minutes. Think, he whispered to himself, fast and quiet. He reached into his belt and pulled out a flare small but bright. With one snap, it hissed to life. Filling the cave with blinding red light, the beast roared, covering its eyes, and Rourke didn't wait. He dashed in, sliding across the icy floor. Grabbing Tiri and pulling her close. "It's me, baby girl," he whispered. "I've got you now." Tiri gasped in shock, eyes wide. "Papa." "I'm here," he said, holding her tight. "We're getting out of here." But the beast was already recovering, growling louder now, angry and confused. It hated the light but hated losing a meal even more. It pounced. Rourke rolled too. The side just in time, shielding Tiri with his body. The beast slammed into the wall, cracking ice, snow raining down. Rourke pulled out a small pulse grenade and tossed it behind them. "Close your eyes." He shouted, boom! A blast of sound and pressure shook the cave, freezing the beast for just a second. That's all he needed. He grabbed Tiri and ran. Slipping on ice but never stopping, they burst out of the cave into the snowstorm, wind slapping. Their faces, Tiri clung to his neck, crying softly but not panicking anymore. She knew if her papa was here. She was safe, but Rourke knew the truth. They weren't safe yet. The frost beast screamed behind them. Now, fully enraged, it had never let prey escape, not once, and it wasn't starting now. It leaped out into the snow, smashing trees, claws. Digging into the ground, Rourke ran faster than he ever thought possible. But the snow was deep, and he was carrying a child. The beast was gaining fast. "Tiri," he said. "Breath sharp. Listen to me. We're gonna play a game." She blinked. Through tears, nodding. "When I say jump, you jump forward into the soft snow. Okay?" Her voice was small. "But what about you?" "I'll be right behind you," he said, forcing a smile. "Trust me." He counted in his head, 3, 2, jump. Tiri flew from his arms into a pile of soft snow. Rourke turned sharply and raised his rifle, firing 3 shots directly at the beast's head. The rounds sparked off its thick ice armor, but it slowed down, shaking its head. "Come on," Rourke muttered. Firing again, just a few more seconds, he ran to Tiri and picked her up again, heart racing. They were close. Now he could see the ridge, the path that led back to their shelter. But then, something new. Footsteps in the snow. Not the beast's, not his others. Big, wide, heavy boots. Humanoid. But too many for just one person. Rourke paused, turning his head slowly from the edge of the jungle. Shadows emerged, tall figures in white armor with glowing blue visors. Not human, not friendly. The Thalox, alien scavengers known to raid small shelters and steal tech. They didn't care about who lived there or who died. Rourke's voice dropped. This just got worse. The frost beast skidded to a halt behind him, but didn't attack. It looked at the newcomers, then back at Rourke, confused. Even the hunter didn't expect competition for a moment. Everything was silent, just wind and breath. Then the Thalax raised their rifles. Rourke dove to the side with Tiri in his arms as lasers sliced through the air. Snow exploded around them. Burning hot from energy blasts, he rolled behind a frozen log and covered Tiri with his coat. "Don't move, don't cry," he whispered. Voice shaking, "I won't," she said bravely. Pressing her small hands to her ears, the frost beast roared again and charged not at them. But at the Thalax, it didn't like being challenged in its own jungle. The aliens turned their weapons, but it was too fast. Claws and snow and blood flew into the air as chaos exploded in front of them. Rourke didn't wait. He grabbed Tiri and ran through the confusion. Slipping past trees and sliding down a small ridge, his knees hurt, his back burned. But he didn't stop. He had one mission: get her home. As the battle faded behind them, Tiri looked up at him, her voice soft. "Papa, will the bad guys follow us?" He kissed her forehead, breath still heavy. "Not if I can help it," he said. "Not tonight." But even as he said it, he looked back once more and saw a blue visor watching them through the snow. The storm was quieter now, but the danger wasn't gone. Rourke held Tiri close as they slipped through the thick white mist. His face was pale, not from the cold, but from the weight of what he'd just seen. The Thalax were on this planet. That changed everything. He didn't know how they found this frozen jungle. He thought it was a forgotten place, safe, hidden, alone. But now? His daughter wasn't just lost anymore. She was being hunted by beasts and now soldiers. Rourke reached a frozen tree with thick roots and pushed aside snow-covered vines. Behind them an old emergency tunnel, once used by the miners, long abandoned. He had hidden supplies there months ago, never thinking he'd need them like this. "Tiri, we're going to rest inside," he said softly. She nodded. Teeth chattering, lips blue from cold. Inside the tunnel, it was dark but quiet, no wind. No growling, no gunfire, only silence. Tiri sat down against the icy wall. Curling her legs to her chest, she stared at her father's arm. Mitt was bleeding. "Papa." "Your arm," she said, touching it gently. "It's okay," he lied, giving her a tired smile. "Just a scratch." She didn't believe him, but said nothing. Instead, she pulled something from her paquita, glowing crystal the size of her hand. "I found this in the cave," she whispered. "It sings." Rourke blinked. "Sings." Tiri nodded, holding it to her ear. And then something strange happened. The crystal began to hum, low and soft, like a lullaby. But it wasn't just sound. Words, whispers moved through the air, soft as breath, and not just in Tiri's head, but in Rourke's too. He reached out and touched the crystal. Suddenly, images flashed in his mind, blue fire. Stars falling, an ancient machine deep below the ice. A voice whispered through the cold. "Heart of the jungle. Guardian returns." Rourke yanked his hand back, breathing hard. What was that? Tiri looked up at him with wide, glowing eyes. "I think it's showing me a way out," she said slowly. "Or a way deeper in," he muttered, before they could speak again. A sound echoed in the tunnel. Tap, tap, soft footsteps. Slow, wet, heavy. Tiri froze, eyes locking with Rourke's. "Not the beast," he whispered, pulling her behind an old metal barrel. These steps weren't animal. They were Thalax, searching. Underground, a blue beam of light passed through the tunnel. Scanning the walls, Rourke held his breath, hand ready on his knife, rifle empty. Tiri clutched the crystal tight to her chest, whispering in a language she didn't know she knew. The crystal glowed brighter and suddenly, the wall beside them shifted. A hidden doorway opened with a faint hiss, revealing a passage filled with strange vines and glowing frost. "What the hell?" Rourke whispered. The Thalax soldier turned toward the sound, but too late. Tiri grabbed her father's hand and pulled him through the hidden door. The wall closed silently behind them, sealing out the searchlight, the soldiers, and the cold. The new tunnel wasn't like the one before. This one was alive. The frost on the walls pulsed like veins. Vines curled along the ceiling, and soft light shimmered beneath their feet. It was warmer here barely, but it felt old, like the place had been sleeping for thousands of years. Waiting? Where are we? Rourke asked, voice low, teary. Didn't answer, but the crystal floated from her hands. Glowing bright blue now, it spun slowly, then darted forward, lighting the way. We're following it. He asked. Teary nodded. It wants us to see something. They walked deeper into the glowing maze, the path twisting and sloping downward. Strange markings lined the wall, some Rourke recognized from alien texts, others he'd never seen. Then they reached a chamber, wide and round, like a giant ice heart. In the center stood a frozen statue. No, not a statue. A being, tall and armored, locked in ice. Hands open, as if waiting for something. On the floor below it, more crystals, shattered and dim. The floating crystal flew to the center and stopped, hovering in front of the frozen figure. Teary stepped forward, drawn to it. Careful, Rourke said, but didn't stop her. The air grew warmer, the ice began to melt, and the whispers returned. She carries the signal, the seed of memory. Unlock the Guardian. What does that mean? Rourke asked, confused. But then the figure's eyes opened inside the ice white. Light pouring out, the chamber rumbled, snow fell from the ceiling, and Teary fell to her knees. Clutching her head, Teary. Rourke caught her as the glow faded from her skin. She opened her eyes slowly, tears slipping down her face. I saw it, she whispered. This jungle isn't just wild. It's a prison. A prison for what? He asked. She looked up at him, voice shaking, for something that wants to wake up. Rourke had seen war. He had seen men scream, machines explode, and skies turn red with fire. But nothing had ever made him feel this helpless. His daughter. Teary lay shaking in his arms, her skin glowing faint blue. Her fingers clenched tight around the crystal that had led them here. The ice chamber rumbled again, soft at first, then stronger. The frozen Guardian was moving. Its chest cracked, ice split open down its arms. White light spilled from the cracks like fire beneath glass. And then a deep voice echoed in chant, heavy and powerful, child of signal. Why have you come? Teary opened her eyes, weak but steady. It called me, she whispered. I didn't mean to, but it heard me crying. The Guardian tilted its head slightly, the ice falling away from its face. It looked alien, but not monstrous tall. Silver-skinned, its eyes like galaxies. Rourke stepped between it and Teary. Knife in hand, voice sharp. She's just a kid. Leave her alone. The Guardian didn't move. You protect her, even when she holds the key to ancient fire. It said slowly, she's my daughter, Rourke growled. Whatever key you're talking about, she didn't ask for it. A moment of silence. Then the Guardian raised one-armed light poured from its palm. Not an attack, but a vision, floating images of the jungle above, of old battles, ships falling from the sky. And something buried deep. Sleeping long ago, we sealed the weapon inside this world, the Guardian said. Now it stirs again, drawn by her pain. Her signal has awakened what should never rise. Suddenly, the ground shook again, but not from the Guardian. From above, distant booms, sharp and angry. Rourke's eyes widened. Explosions up top. The Thalax had found their shelter. And they were searching underground now. Time was running out. We need to go, Rourke said, lifting Teary in his arms. But the Guardian stepped forward, blocking their path. You cannot leave, it said. If the Thalax reach the core, the seal will break. We don't care about your seal. Rourke snapped. We just want to live. But then Teary spoke soft and afraid. Papa, I saw it. The thing under the ice. Rourke looked at her, heart pounding. What? Thing? Teary looked at the Guardian, tears rising. It's not a weapon. It's alive, and it hates us all. Before they could speak again, the ceiling above cracked sharply. Boom. A laser blast had hit close, melting through the upper layer. Snow. And dust fell, and faint voices echoed to lax soldiers. Closing in, Rourke spun around, eyes scanning the chamber. Is there another way out? He asked the Guardian. Yes, it replied, but only the chosen may open it, then help her do it. Rourke shouted, she is not ready. I don't care, get her ready. The Guardian moved toward Tiri, glowing hand reaching gently toward her head. Rourke flinched, but Tiri grabbed his hand and whispered, It's okay, Papa. I trust it. She closed her eyes and the light entered her skin, her eyes glowing like stars. Symbols floated around her ancient language. No human had ever seen, and then a small circular gate formed behind the statue, pulsing gently with blue light. The Guardian turned to Rourke. She can pass through, but you must choose. What choice? If you follow, you leave the jungle forever, but the seal will. Weakened Rourke looked at his daughter, then at the shaking walls, the enemy coming closer. The ancient power awakening deep below. He clenched his fists. I choose her, he said, every damn time. Tiri took his hand, and together they stepped through the light. The cold disappeared instantly, replaced by soft blue mist and floating platforms. It was like walking through a dream. Strange birds flew through the mist, singing low and up ahead. A tower rose glass and ice and memory. They had entered the heart of the jungle. The final chamber, untouched by time, but even here, danger followed. A crack appeared in the air behind them. One of the Thalax had forced their way through. Not just any soldier, a hunter. Tall, armored in jet black. With glowing red eyes and a long blade on his back, he looked at Tiri and hissed. The girl belongs to us. Rourke pushed her behind him, his voice low and full of rage. You're not touching her, the hunter laughed, stepping forward, blade rising, then die with her. But before he could strike, the Guardian's voice echoed. One last time, then awakened the roar of man. Rourke's body surged with light, the glow from Tiri's hand passing into him. His muscles burned, heart raced, and something ancient inside him, human fury, human love ignited. He screamed, not in fear, but in war, and charged the hunter with a roar that shook the stars. Snow fell again, but this time it was quiet, soft, like feathers drifting from the sky. The storm was gone. The fighting was over. But Rourke's heart was still racing. He stood over the fallen Thalax hunter, blood steaming on the frozen ground. His hands trembled not from cold but from what had awakened inside him, that roar, that power. It wasn't just rage. It felt like something ancient had flowed from his daughter into him, something not human, but also not alien, something in between. Tiri stood close to him, her tiny hand gripping his coat. Her eyes no longer glowed, but she was calm, like she'd always known this would happen. Papa, she said softly, the tower's door is opening ahead of them. The glass tower inside the jungle, heart shimmered. A staircase of ice extended from its base, forming slowly, like it was welcoming them. But Rourke didn't move. He looked back. Only silence now. No more hunters. No footsteps, no sounds. Even the Guardian was gone. Only the echo of its last words remained in his mind. Protect the signal. Protect her. He lifted Tiri into his arms and walked toward the tower as they reached the base. The door slid open with a whisper. Inside, the warmth wrapped around them like a soft blanket. Blue vines climbed the walls, glowing gently. Strange plants pulsed with light, releasing warmth into the air. It didn't feel like a building yet, felt alive. They found a small room on the second floor round, with crystal beds and soft light. No machines, no cold metal, just comfort. Tiri lay down without a word. Curling up and falling asleep almost instantly. Rourke watched her for a moment, brushing her hair from her face. She looked peaceful now. Not the scared little girl from the ice storm, but something more, something stronger. He sat beside her and whispered, "We made it." For now, but even as the words left his mouth, he knew it wasn't over. He'd seen the vision in the Guardian's mind. There was something deeper, buried beneath the tower. Something moving, waiting. And it was connected to teary hours. Past, maybe more. Time didn't move the same way inside the tower. When Tiri woke, she walked over to the window and looked out. The jungle beyond had changed, trees had shifted. Frost had melted in places. New lights had appeared on the horizon. "The jungle listens now," she said quietly. Rourke looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" "It's not just trees and snow," she said. "It watches. It remembers." He walked over and knelt beside her. "Tiri, what are you turning into?" She looked up at him, sad but sure. "I don't know, Papa, but I think I was never just a girl." Rourke felt a lump in his throat. "You're my girl." She smiled and hugged him tight. "Always." Suddenly, a small chime rang from the tower's wall like a heartbeat. A panel opened, revealing a floating orb, blue and gold, swirling with data. A voice, gentle and soft, filled the room. "Welcome, hybrid signal. Sanctuary mode initiated. Awaiting further connection." Rourke stood, eyes wide. "Hybrid signal." The orb floated closer to Tiri, scanning her with soft light. She didn't flinch. "Is this part of the tower?" Rourke asked. Tiri nodded. "It wants to help. I think it's been sleeping for a long time." The orb turned toward Rourke next, scanning him as well. Protector signature confirmed. Vital signs declining. You require medical repair. A beam of healing light wrapped around his shoulder and arm, wounds closing gently. He breathed in relief. "Well, that's new." The orb floated back toward the center of the room and projected a map. The tower sat at the center of the jungle. And far below, a red blinking dot, pulsing like a heartbeat. Warning: seal unstable. Deep core awakening. Threat level imminent. Rourke frowned. "That's the thing under the jungle, isn't it?" The orb blinked twice, as if answering Tiri's hand. Went to the crystal in her pocket. It pulsed again. "I think it's calling again," she whispered, "but not to me this time." "To you, Papa," Rourke blinked, caught off guard. "Me?" "Yes," she said, taking his hand. "I shared it with you. The light, the signal. Now, it wants you to go down there." He looked at the map again, then at his daughter. He didn't want to leave her alone, but something in his chest told him this was part of their journey. He had to go deeper, into the core, to protect her future. He stood, shoulders square, and looked down at her. "I'll go," he said, "but I need you to stay here. Stay safe." Tiri nodded. Bravely. "I'll be waiting." As he stepped toward the staircase that spiraled down beneath the tower, the orb followed him. The door opened once more, revealing a staircase that led into the dark. Cold air rushed up from below. Rourke took one deep breath and disappeared into the deep. The staircase felt endless. Rourke's boots echoed softly against the smooth glass steps as he descended into the darkness beneath the tower. The orb floated beside him, glowing gently, lighting the path. Cold air rose from below, heavy, damp, and full of something ancient. He didn't look back. He couldn't. Tiri was safe above for now. But something below wanted to rise, and he had to stop it. 30 floors down, the staircase ended at a giant door made of crystal and metal. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Dumb, ... Dumb. Rourke took a deep breath and placed his hand on the panel. The crystal inside his chest passed to him from Tiri, responded. The door hissed and opened. The chamber beyond was vast, glowing with dim red light. Giant walls covered in alien symbols circled a deep pit in the center, and from that pit, something breathed. Not like an animal, deeper, older, like a mountain shifting in its sleep. Rourke stepped forward slowly. "What is this place?" he whispered. The orb hovered in front of him and responded calmly. "Primary sealed chamber. This is where the ancient power sleeps." He moved closer to the edge of the pit, gripping the railing tightly far below. Covered in glowing roots and frost was a shape too large to understand. It pulsed with light. "And hate, is it alive?" he asked. The orb replied, "It is dreaming. But the signal from above has weakened the lock. The dreamer stirs." Rourke looked up sharply. "You mean Tiri?" "She carries the seed," the orb replied. "It links to this world. Her pain, her voice, her signal, it reached the dreamer." Rourke's jaw tightened. "So, this thing. It was never just sealed, the weight was listening." "Yes," said the orb. "And now it waits for one final signal to fully awaken." Suddenly, the lights in the chamber flickered. The orb shook slightly in the air, then floated upward, spinning fast. "Warning," it said. "Unauthorized life forms entering from the north tunnel. Thalax breach confirmed." Rourke's eyes widened. "They followed us even here." He pulled out his knife again. "No guns, no grenades, just steel and instinct. They want the core." "Or her," he growled, "but they'll get neither." A second later, red lights blinked on the far side of the chamber. Figures stepped in, armored weapons drawn. At their front a tall Thalax commander with deep red armor and sharp metal claws. He looked down at the pit and smiled coldly. "So this is the heart," he said. "Beautiful and full of death." Rourke stood between them and the pit. "You're not taking anything," he said. The commander laughed. "You humans always think you're guardians." He raised a strange device and pointed it at the pit. "We're not here to fight you," he sneered. "We're here to wake it up." The orb screamed in warning, but it was too late. A pulse of energy shot into the core, red lightning cracking through the chamber. The pit shook, the air trembled, and from deep below, the dreamer began to rise. Its eyes opened massive, ancient, glowing with hunger. The mountain had awakened. The orb turned to Rourke urgently. "Emergency option: transfer remaining hybrid signal into the core. Only the Protector may carry it. Only the Protector can stop the awakening." Rourke's head spun. "What does that mean?" The orb floated in front of him, glowing brighter than ever. Asterisk, asterisk, "You must choose," it said. "If you take the signal into yourself, you may stop it, but your body will not survive." Rourke closed his eyes, heart heavy. He thought of tearing her tiny hands, her voice, her bravery, her laughter in the snow. She had already given him everything: her trust, her signal, her light. Now it was his turn to protect her. With everything he had left, he opened his eyes, voice steady. "Do it," he said. "Transfer it to me." The orb spun fast, light swirling like a storm. "Confirmed. Beginning final signal transfer." A wave of light entered Rourke's body. His hands glowed, his chest burned, his vision blurred, but his mind was sharp. Focused, alive, he stepped to the center of the platform, raised his hand, and unleashed a roar of pure light. The energy struck the rising dreamer, blinding, burning, human. The creature screamed, not in pain, but in surprise. It had never felt this before. The Thalax were thrown back, weapons melted. In their hands, the platform cracked, and the pit began to close. The seal was rebuilding, but at a terrible price. Rourke dropped to his knees, his skin glowing like glass. The orb floated close, its voice soft now. "Seal restored. Signal complete. Goodbye, Protector." Rourke smiled faintly. Falling backward, "I kept my promise." He whispered, "She's safe," and everything went dark, back in the tower. Tiri gasped and sat up suddenly, hand over her heart. She felt it, something deep, something final. The signal was gone. She whispered, "Papa?" Tears welled in her eyes, but then the floor beneath her feet glowed. The orb rose through the floor, slowly cracked, weak, but still alive. It floated to her and played a final message, her father's voice. "I love you, little star. Be brave. Always." She hugged the orb tight and whispered through her tears, "I will, Papa. I promise." The ice jungle was quiet for the first time in what felt like forever. There was no storm, no growl, no gunfire. Just soft snow falling from the sky and wind that whispered like a lullaby. At the top of the tower, little Tiri stood by the window. Hands pressed to the glass, she watched the jungle breathe beneath her, peaceful again. But her heart ached empty, like something had been taken from her chest. Her father was gone. The glowing orb floated beside her, its light dimmer than before. It had shared his last message, his last heartbeat, and now all it could do was hover silently, as if mourning with her. Tiri didn't cry anymore. She had already cried enough. Now she just waited. Suddenly, the vines on the tower wall shifted. A door opened slowly, quietly, revealing a figure standing in the snow. Wrapped in thick fabric and frost, face hidden by a hood. Tiri didn't move at first, unsure if it was real or another dream, but then the figure fell to one knee, exhausted, shivering but alive. The orb rushed forward, scanning quickly, then chirped. Vital signs detected. Signal partial identity match, 67%. Unknown fusion present. Tiri's eyes went wide. "Papa," she whispered, stepping closer. The figure looked up, and she saw it. His eyes still human, still warm, but glowing faintly with blue light. Not like hers. Not like the jungle's. Something new. He opened his arms without a word. She ran to him and collapsed into his chest, sobbing for the first time since he left. "You came back," she cried. "You came back." He wrapped his arms around her gently, voice rough, but soft. "I promised I would." They sat there, father and daughter. In the middle of the silent tower, snow fell through the open doorway. But neither of them felt cold. Not anymore. Later that day, the tower lit up again. Brighter than ever, the jungle around them began to change. Trees bloomed with soft colors. Creatures once hidden crept closer, drawn to the new warmth. The seal in the deep had held, and something in the planet had shifted. It no longer saw humans as a threat. Because of him, because of them. The orb projected a new message on the wall. One written in both alien and human language. Hybrid signal stabilized. Guardian lineage established. Planet now recognizes dual-bonded protectors. Rourke smiled, holding Tiri's small hand in his own. "I guess we're family in more ways than one now," he said. Tiri giggled through her tears. "Can we stay here forever?" Rourke looked out at the horizon, where sunlight now touched. "The snow, not forever," he said, "but long enough to build something new." Months passed, they repaired the old shelter, grew food in the tower garden, and kept the jungle peaceful. Sometimes other ships passed by in orbit, but no one came down. The planet, once feared and forgotten, had become something else. Not a jungle of ice anymore, but a home. And Tiri grew. Day by day smarter, stronger, and stranger in the most beautiful way. Her voice could calm the creatures of the woods. Her eyes could see life in the trees, and her father. He stayed by her side, human in heart, alien in soul, together. They had become the bond that saved the world. One night, under a sky full of stars, Tiri curled beside him by the fire. "Papa, if I never got lost, would any of this have happened?" Rourke thought for a moment, watching the sparks rise. "I don't know," he said, "but maybe. Some things have to break before they can grow." Tiri smiled, resting her head on his arm. "I'm glad I got lost," she whispered, "because I found you again." And as the fire crackled and the tower hummed softly in the distance, the jungle slept, The stars watched, and the last signal, was finally at peace.